Joining us on stage as moderator again is Emma Nelson from the BBC, presenter and broadcaster. We are privileged to have again the Honourable Minister Edmund Bartlett from Jamaica. We have Mr. Arvind Singh, the Secretary of Ministry of Tourism, India. Good afternoon, sir. And the Deputy Secretary for Botswana Ministry of Tourism, Professor Buhalis at the Bournemouth University. Emma, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Has everybody been well fed and watered? Most important question. Lovely, thank you. Well, thank you very much indeed for a delicious lunch as well. We're most grateful to the organisers. We've got half an hour because we're going to, again, pick up the pace. And we want to talk a little bit about strengthening cooperation within the Commonwealth to boost trade, investment and tourism. And I think I'm going to ask a sort of a big question to start everybody else off, and very quick fire round down the panel. Who do I want to begin with? Maybe we can use what's the Commonwealth got that no one else has?
I think a common history. We share a lot together that we have experienced in terms of our legal systems, the way our societies have evolved. So there is a lot of common between the countries of the common in terms of a shared history.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much indeed for that. Who wants to go next and have a go at answering that question? Maybe Botswana.
Yeah, I think like he said, we have a common history, and we also have a shared policies that are similar to one another, and because of that, we can be the opportunity for us to network with people to share even the investment tourism, because our policies will not be too contradictory.
Okay, Minister from Jamaica. What does the Commonwealth bring to the table that no one else has?
Well, I believe the Commonwealth has a grouping of 56 countries with a population of pretty close to 3 billion, and the potential to collaborate and to converge in economic and social and other areas that no other region has, because of the history of the Commonwealth of Nations and the confluence of social and political arrangements that are common in that region. I think because of that, the Commonwealth is special, and I think it has potential like no other region on earth together right now to create wealth and to distribute wealth among itself.
Thank you for that. So the one word that all three of you mentioned was the word history. I think you were the only one who mentioned potential. Dimitrios, what does that say to you about the way that people see the Commonwealth, even from within?
I think there's a heritage that's going back, that's based on the history that we're discussing about. And I think in this country, the Commonwealth is really important in terms of the economic and development links over the years. And I think what makes it even more important right now is the Brexit situation, because the UK is looking to different ways of reconstructing the economy and creating different networks around the world. And I think the Commonwealth will provide that kind of opportunity to engage with people from different parts of the world.
I was rather hoping you weren't going to mention the B word, but thank you very much indeed for that. Now that leads me to a question insofar as the point of view that you have just done is that the control and the leadership comes from the United Kingdom, looking for somewhere else as a result of Brexit. If you are not in the United Kingdom, how much do you actually genuinely think and feel that you are part of the Commonwealth the whole time? I mean, is it necessary for the lead to come from London? Who wants to answer that?
That's a political question. I'll leave it to the politicians.
Well, no, I think the issue of the leadership coming from England is also a matter of history. in that we've morphed out of colonialism into a kind of loose political arrangement. I think was bounded more by trade and trade considerations, primarily from the fact that most of us were really plantation economies, and that we were primary producers of commodities, which essentially were traded and traded through the UK. The political systems that we've all had have aped the Westminster model, and in the legal and jurisprudence system, the civil service arrangements, the education system. In fact, our literature, the content of our education, by and large, was from the UK and driven by English. The language, it's powerful. You know, the language is the language of trade and commerce in the world. All that, and it emanated from the UK. So it seemed natural that that leadership would not just emerge, but sustain. If, however, there is a seismic shift, as perhaps there is happening now, where geopolitical shifts and perhaps economic shifts, then there could also be other movements, and leadership can emerge from elsewhere. I'm not suggesting anywhere, but certainly there's a country with 1.3 billion people. I don't know what the ambitions of that country, are, and then the others to the north of me in the Caribbean.
Maybe if we stick to tourism, and we stick to tourism.
Well, you did ask a political question.
I did. Possibly should have reframed that one. But, from the point of view of that feeling of the connection of tourism,
Yes.
and the fact that and that fact that it sort of is, the Commonwealth does have that historic tie.
Right.
What are the benefits? Let me ask you, Secretary from India, let me ask you what the benefits are in terms of tourism and country branding to say we are part of the Commonwealth.
As I said, there is a shared history. And so, people have read or learnt about it through the written word or the spoken word about what they have seen in what is there in other parts of the Commonwealth. And I'm sure there is merit in the fact that people would like to go themselves and explore and see for themselves. I have visited a few countries which were part of the Commonwealth, and there is a lot of similarities of experience and a shared history and culture that we see. So I'm sure, given the strong shared past, there is merit in the fact that people should go and meet and explore the potential that is there in these regions in this country.
I particularly want to ask your permission to speak to that, because I've spent a little time thinking about it. I've actually written a paper that I presented at the Shugam in Kigali a few weeks ago, where I looked at the Commonwealth. I looked at this loose aggregation of nations seeking to find this way, being bounded by the influences of commodity trading, which has died. The Caribbean, which is a big provider of sugar, bananas, citrus, and so on, all that has gone. Bauxite, gone. And I looked at what it is that the Commonwealth still has with a capacity to bind it together. And it's the people. It's the 3 billion of us that are in the Commonwealth. The energies of the people, the wealth of the people, the creativity of the people. How can we harness that for good and to bring back the Commonwealth into a homogeneous whole, as it were? And I think that tourism presents itself, because it is the lifeline for most of the Commonwealth countries. Earlier I mentioned the labor situation and the fact that up to 25 to 30% of the employment of most countries within our space is driven by tourism. And then we have regions within the Commonwealth that are hugely tourism dependent. 13 of the 56 countries of the Commonwealth are in the Caribbean. Caribbean is the most tourism-dependent region on earth. 23 of those countries are in Africa. Africa is emerging as a strong tourism area. Then we have a Pacific area that has another 13 or so, and the Indian Ocean, with the Maldives, Seychelles, Mauritius. All of these are highly tourism-dependent regions. So tourism offers a real opportunity now to bring partners together. The big market, India, South Africa, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and then the emerging economies of Africa that are the new growth areas of the world. So we have both source markets and recipient destinations within our space. So what we need to do now is to look at what type of mechanisms we can develop together to enable this convergence. And the first thing we could look at is access to each other, air connectivity. So I came up with a number of proposals in relation to a protocol that we could develop with each other. One, to have open skies agreement with all of us so our airlines can fly. To look at a common visa regime like the Schengen in Europe that allows, for touristic purposes, not for migration, but touristic purposes. So you can visit each other easily, freely. Then there's a whole business of training and development of the human capital within the Commonwealth. We have a lot of best practices that we can draw on. We have wonderful academic institutions within the we can share knowledge and information. And then, of course, there's a banking and financial arrangements, investments that we can invest with each other to build products, hotels, attractions, various types of supply chain activities that will enable the dollar to stay within the Commonwealth, so that the wealth of the Commonwealth can be shared by the people of the Commonwealth. So those are some of the thoughts that I had put together, and I believe that it can form the basis of a useful discussion. The Commonwealth needs something to bind it. It needs a glue to keep it together, and tourism, I posit, is that glue.
So we arguably have two areas that we need to explore with that idea. Firstly, the idea of a common Commonwealth identity as a people, but also the practicalities. What can actually be the tangible benefits from a grouping such as yours? If you're sitting in Botswana and you hear something like this, how often does actually the idea of being part of the Commonwealth of tourism actually ever figure?
Yeah, I think one thing that our tourism industry is very heavily dependent on the internet. A bulk of the tourists visit our resort, and we are also in the process of diversifying the product, both in terms of location and different types of products. And this is where when we look at the possible investment into our country, looking at who has some commonalities with us, who we can do. That's when we look at areas like the Commonwealth, whom we are already part of. We look at what can we do to attract that sort of investment to come from. So we see the Commonwealth as especially looking at the population size that is within the Commonwealth. We can attract investment from these countries, then we also can be able to attract the tourists from those very countries, because this will be the investors being able to tell their own people to say, we have investment in Botswana, we can visit it, it's the same country, it has a product to offer. So I think it's one of those.
Secretary Owen, sitting in India, when you're listening to Edmund saying, right, we need this, and this. I mean, are the same things being said where you are, or is this?
No,
or is that just,
slight, but taking cue from what Minister Bartlett said, I think the thought that came to my mind is some areas where we can definitely offer things that are there available in India. One is we have a very strong network of training institutions, especially in tourism and hospitality, and that is definitely the area that we can offer. But yes, for the Commonwealth, we can think of having some kind of cooperation arrangements where we train people in our academic institutions. Investment is also an area because we have, Indian companies and the government investing in certain parts of the Commonwealth. For instance, they've gone to Maldives, they've gone to Mauritius, they're in Sri Lanka, but I don't think they've gone to the Caribbean or to the Far East, to the Pacific. So, definitely these are areas that, the strength of the Indian academic institutions and the strength of the Indian Bollywood, of course, is a very strong, brand that we have, and that is obviously available. The other, issue that the thought that came to my mind is that yes, while India will continue and it'll progress as a big market because our economy is growing, and we've just become the 5th largest economy in the world, and all predictions by all analysts are that we're going to be the 3rd largest. Some say 2028, some say 2030, but there's no debate on the fact that we are going to reach there soon. So I think we are going to be a source market for many, but also we don't get many visitors from the Commonwealth. When we see which are the countries that contribute to us, it's mainly the traditionally developed countries who come to India. The US, Canada, yes. UK, yes. Australia, yes. But the other countries are not from the Commonwealth. When we look at potential markets, we don't see. So I think there's also an opportunity for the people from the Commonwealth to see India and to visit India and enjoy the variety of culture and the rich tapestry of other things that we have on offer. So I think these are areas that we can definitely contribute to.
sort of the balance of power in a moment. But Demetrius, I wanted to ask you, I mean, in your research, have these conversations ever been had before in terms of using the Commonwealth as a shared pot for tourism benefit?
We don't explicitly say that, but what actually happens is that because there are trade agreements already for many, many years, there are a lot of things happening. Because they establish collaborations with academics and different universities around the world, we are very much engaged with many different destinations, many different countries. We are partners with Jamaica, and we're supporting Minister Bartlett on the things that they're doing on the Center for Resilience. We are working with many people in India, several colleagues in Africa. And what you see is that it's much easier actually for students to come to do their postgraduate with us. I was saying earlier on that 2 or 3 years ago, 40% of my students, postgraduate students, will come from China. Right now, I only have 2 students from China. The major country is India, and you've seen some of my students when you checked in. And the second country is Saudi Arabia, which is not Commonwealth, but you can see where the investment is happening in tourism. And I think the opportunity will be on the education and the research side, and I think it's important for ministers and governments to put a little bit of money on the side for research, because research actually will enable us to work together to address common problems. The resilience is one of them. The technology and the smartness and how we can harness the best benefits from and the best talent from in many different countries. In India, you've got a lot of excellent talent in tourism hospitality, but also on technology. So we really need to take advantage of the expertise and the knowledge, and to bring the links together in order to be able to operate in a better way as a Commonwealth.
We have an enormous job ahead of us if this is going to work. So just staying with you briefly, Demetrius, Edmund mentioned the idea of Schengen apologies, forgot, in the European Union. Where can the Commonwealth take its lead from in terms of starting to build a structure that could succeed?
We are not starting from zero. There have been a lot of links, and there have been a lot of work that has been done. Whether it's labeled as under the Commonwealth brand or not, it's another matter. But there used to be We had conference on Commonwealth tourism. We had a lot of different things, and a lot of the links are bilateral, without necessarily having the label of Commonwealth. But in fact, they are there. So I think we can do a better job by bringing everybody together and actually addressing 2 or 3 key themes that is going to take us forward. Minister Bartlett has started with the resilience things. We are doing a lot of stuff with smart tourism and the technology and how we can take advantage of new technologies to go forward and bring all of these things together. I think the common problem we all have is human resources. And I think some of the countries like India is exporting human resources and talent, and we will be seeing that around the world. I think Africa has got incredible resources and will be the most authentic destination in the future. And I think it's a little bit of bringing together the Commonwealth Secretariat and wake them up to the potential that's available. There is a lot of stuff that's happening already, but I think a little bit of a gentle reminder is really important.
Add here, yeah. That we mentioned about cooperation. We have our foreign ministry and the nations of Africa. We have an arrangement for various training programs that we do, and I'm sure this is an area that we would be willing to work with.
I feel as if we're sort of slowly bringing a few things together. I'm just hoping that someone, I am looking at you,
Right.
might be the person who just sort of says, come on everybody, this is how we do it. Because I feel as if there's a sort of strong leadership drive coming from my immediate left.
Yes.
Is it all you now?
Because I do think that the ambition to do it is what's missing. The ambition to create the connectivity. We had it in the past. To fly to the UK, I need a visa from Jamaica. People ask me, so the monarchy, and you're part of the monarchy, but you have to get a visa to come to see your king, for God's sake. So that's an issue. And within the Commonwealth itself, there are these barriers. And so what we're talking about, if tourism is to be that driver, then we have to look at removing these barriers. To facilitate travel, we have to look at visa arrangements. And I think that one is perhaps the big elephant in the room. The second key one, and we could start there with the visas for touristic purposes only. So don't worry about migration and my coming to take you over and become Prime Minister. I'm sorry, and become something else, who knows, right? But just for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 5 days, as the case might be. Then air connectivity is the key. Air and sea. That's how we move. That's how we move people by and large. Very few of us have contiguities that allow for land movement. The Commonwealth is not so built, except for the brothers in Africa. Right? We in the Caribbean, we are a group of non-contiguous islands connected by a wonderful place called the Caribbean Sea. Right? So we have to fly or we have to sail. So the issue then of border control and access is very important. And I think we can look at it. Then we are in groups, geographic groups. We can have multi-destination tourism within those spaces. So there are things we can look at together, and I would urge that even from this summit, we make a statement about that possibility. Because I'm sure that His Majesty is looking for that glue to bring back the Commonwealth together. And we may be able to nudge him along from here. Who knows?
One, if he is watching, thank you, Your Majesty. If we are to do this, and is there another opportunity perhaps, let's say in terms of the big things that preoccupy the world at the moment? You were talking about freedom of movement and especially in the tourism sector. What about the environment? Is there a space there that the Commonwealth could lead the way? Because the Commonwealth has every kind of climate and has challenges to do with climate change in every part of it. What would that mean for you in Botswana?
Yeah, it's. I think we have the Commonwealth has got a variety of environmental issues that can also bring us together. As my minister was supposed to be here, but he's in the climate change COP in Egypt, just because of the issues that we are having in the environment. And so I think as the Commonwealth, there are many areas where we could cooperate, and we could use that cooperation to be the start of some of the engagements that we go for. And the next week we'll be meeting in Panama for another environmental issues CITES meeting, where some of the countries that we come from are having a big issue about elephants. And these are some of the areas where we could be able to be meeting together as the Commonwealth and be having more or less a common position on how to deal with these issues, or not just a common position, but also how to support each other to be able to address all the issues the environmental issues that we are facing right now. So that could also provide a space for the Commonwealth members to be able to engage each other and move forward.
Secretary, Alvin, you were mentioning a little bit about the fact that there are countries who have wealth to share and countries which need a little bit of a lift up. India would fall into the first category.
Not yet. Not yet.
Getting there.
We're getting there.
You're getting there one day. The fact is that how easy would it be to sell to the Indian population that part of the wealth that currently India keeps for itself should be shared with other nations in order to lift them up?
See, we are still a developing nation.
Oh, you are.
And the goal is that we've attained 75 years of independence this year. And we got free in 1947. And the Prime Minister's address to the nation on our Independence Day this year on the 15th of August said that the goal is that when we complete 100 years of independence, we should be a developed nation. So that's the political goal that the country aspires to achieve. So we're still we haven't got there. But yes, wherever we can, we have very large aid programs that we ourselves have, especially for our brothers in Africa and other countries that are in need. Recently, when Sri Lanka was in financial trouble, one of the first countries that reached out to them was India.
And more in particular in tourism.
Yes.
So across the world, within the Commonwealth.
Yes, I mean for Sri Lanka it was to rebuild the economy so that tourism could start, and it was going into. So there is wherever we can, given our constraints and resources, we have helped other countries, and that is our policy. And I don't think there will be any kind of a pushback or anything. As our income grows or our wealth grows or the economy grows, I think it will go up further in the future.
Dimitris, do you see any barriers to any of this?
I think the opportunities are coming from co-creation of wealth. And we are constantly looking in the past instead of looking into the future. And I think when you start looking towards 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals and what's happening, I think when the Commonwealth is coming together, it's not about sharing resources that they've got or taking resources from India and giving them to Sri Lanka, but it's actually creating the mechanisms to co-create extra wealth by using the network. I think this is the trick, where no politician is going to go to Jamaica and say, guys, we're going to take some money from Jamaica and we're going to put them in the UK, right? Because we know what's going to happen to them. So what you need to do is you need to find ways of co-creating extra value and extra wealth that the network is going to create. And I'm going back to my students in Bournemouth University, that they're coming over. So I've got 30 master students from India right now. They came over to do a one-year course. The system allows them to work 20 hours per week, half a job. And I've got students who are already working in tourism and hospitality, gaining experience from the UK. Then during their placement, they're going to have the opportunity to do another year of placement. So all this expertise will create extra value. Some of them, they're going to go back to India. Some of them are going to go to other Commonwealth countries. Some of them will go to totally different countries, but they'll be much better professionals. And that kind of value should go back to India to invest in the future of India, but also in the meanwhile, it's contributing to the economy of the UK. So I think we really need to look into the co-creation of value and wealth by sharing resources. There are several programs also for us from the UK or from colleagues from India, from Jamaica, from all the Commonwealth countries to come and spend some time with us, share some of our research, for us to go and do some training to them in terms of things like research, publications, different things. And it's all about engaging in the co-creation of value and wealth. And I think a lot of things are happening right now. They may not be under the banner of Commonwealth. It doesn't matter really. But I think the new king will have to also win the mind and heart of Commonwealth nations to actually engage in that kind of conversation. So I think that will become a political agenda at the very high level. And I think the important thing, especially for our politicians, is to come forward with 4 or 5 different solutions and say, let's do education, let's do tourism, let's do trade, let's do medicine. I mean, the technology is bringing us opportunities that we never had before. So if someone from Jamaica wanted to have an operation in London, they had to physically get a visa first and then physically come to London. Robotics means that you can have an operation wherever you are, and the doctor is wherever they are. And the doctor may be in India because it happens that the cost of
He's definitely there.
is much better.
Yes.
We used to have medical tourism where we used to travel to the destination to have procedures. A lot of the procedures will be happening remotely now because you'll be able to either advise or to actually operate remotely using robotics. There's a lot, but we need a new way of thinking. And the new way of thinking is really taking advantage of all the technologies, all the tools, all the globalization kind of thing. And we need, to a certain extent, take away the labels, because the labels in the past was, these are the advanced countries, these are the developing countries, and we know better than them. But actually what we find is that now knowledge is globalized. India, in particular, is exporting incredible amount of talent because they are very good with technology. They are taking over all the major information communication companies. The CEO of Microsoft, Twitter,
Google,
and all the rest of it. So it's really about taking advantage of the network, taking advantage of the procedures that we had already, and take advantage of collaboration between different players.
There's fingers going up
Yeah,
everywhere,
right.
so I'm going to let you go first.
Thank you.
I'm on my way to you.
Right. The reason I wanted to intervene is that I don't want us to derogate from the centrality of tourism as a critical driver here. It's primarily because tourism is the only economic activity on earth that has the ability to transfer wealth around and about from the rich to the poor in almost nano time. The reason being that we are the most consumption-driven activity on earth. That's what we do. We travel to consume. We consume every asset that is available. And without those elements of consumption, there's no tourism. The Commonwealth country has the elements already. We can build on them. We don't have to invent or reinvent anything. We just simply take my dollar from Jamaica and spend it in the UK for a nice holiday, visit India and see the Taj Mahal and spend some. That's it. As the plane flies, it brings the wealth and it's distributed. As the ship comes in the harbor with the cruise passengers, the dollar. So the most effective and easiest way to convert capital to wealth, tourism. So what we're saying is allow us as the people of the Commonwealth to move around and spend and consume what we all have. Our music, our art, our rich biodiversities, yes? Our geophysical facilities, our man-made attraction, all of that we consume. We pay to enjoy, to have fun, to be happy. So let the Commonwealth enhance happiness by moving the people around. And the wealth moves around. So you don't have to bring technology to me necessarily. Just bring the people with their capacity to consume. And
Minister,
that's
the
point I'm trying to
technology
make
will
about
bring
it.
the people.
Yeah, but I'm only saying that, you know.
Time, I'm afraid, has run out, so if I want to give the final floor to final point.
Just a thought, triggering from what Professor said about medical tourism, and that's an area where we have very strong connections with countries of the Commonwealth and elsewhere. Recently, I was in the Middle East and I met the Sheikh of a principality, and his, warm thoughts or good thoughts about India were only because of the fact that when he was a child and there were not very good medical facilities in his emirate, he traveled, his father sent him to India for treatment to Mumbai.
That's the word, travel.
And medical tourism is, something that is really something that we can offer. We have the best expertise.
Absolutely.
And we have, expertise at a very low cost. And I'm sure, as the populations age, the requirements of medical attention will grow. And that is something that India will definitely offer to them.
Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. I'm going to get a raise of hands here. I get a sense of dynamism from this panel. Who's going to ring the Commonwealth Secretariat first?
Him.
Actually visited them
You
already.
visited them. Right. Thank you so much indeed. That was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm allowed to just make a little commercial here. Jamaica has proposed to the UN we designate February 17th as World Tourism Resilience Day. The UN is considering it, and in the wake of that consideration, we're having an event in Jamaica on the 17th of February to have the first observation of Global Tourism Resilience Day. So we want that to be a date that you should put in your calendar. Now, just by way of extending that commercial, Paul, and I hope you don't mind, we're making it a 3-day event. The first day, we're calling it a resilience conference. The first day, ITIC has taken. And it will be all about investment and building resilience through investment. And the second day will be a summit of the Caribbean and Africa. So we want to bring the African ministers and leaders of tourism to come to the Caribbean to meet with us. There are 28 of us in the Caribbean. And we can talk about how, again, the Africa-Caribbean tourism convergence. Pretty much like the Commonwealth, which we'll get to in time. And then the third day, Dr. Rifai, who is the co-chair and co-founder with me of the Global Resilience and Crisis Management Center, will be on hand for us to launch officially Global Tourism Resilience Day. So the invitation is to all of you, please come along, and those who can't, join us online. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
We need
Thank you.